Insurance fraud in the UK has hit epidemic levels. It's costing us around £2 billion every year. That's almost £6 million a day. Deliberate crashes, bogus personal injuries, even phantom pets. The fraudsters are risking more and more to make a quick killing. And every year it's adding over £50 to your insurance bill. But insurers are fighting back, exposing around 14 fake claims every hour. Armed with covert surveillance systems,
that's a subject out the vehicle,
sophisticated data analysis techniques, and a number of highly skilled police units. They're catching the criminals red-handed.
Just don't lie to us.
All those con men, scammers, and cheats on the fiddle are now caught in the act and claimed and shamed. Coming up, an opportunistic fraudster sees the London riots as a chance to cash in.
The rioters weren't anywhere near his premises, and Mr. Patel even managed to get the timing slightly wrong as well.
One lady brushes up on her Italian from the comfort of her armchair.
We strongly believe that the medical report was written utilising an online translation system.
And Thames Valley Police break in on another suspected crash for cash ring.
Right, go. Last chance. Police, open the door now, last chance!
Back in the summer of 2011, the UK was hit with some of the worst riots in a generation. It's thought as many as 1,500 people were involved in 5 days of public unrest, causing millions of pounds worth of damage to buildings, businesses and homes. More than 5,000 crimes were committed in that time, and the insurance industry saw thousands of claims, costing around £200 million.
The riots caused misery to hundreds and hundreds of businesses and individuals. Shop fronts were damaged, businesses couldn't trade, there was looting. As a result of the riots, Allianz Insurance dealt with 350 claims, and we'd paid over £11 million in claim settlements.
The burning shops of South London became the iconic images of the riots. Local business owner Abid Patel contacted Allianz after his premises were targeted by the rioters.
Mr. Patel reported that in August 2011, his laundrette, shopfront and washing machines inside had been damaged by rioters during the London riots.
Outnumbered by an angry mob, Mr. Patel had to witness firsthand the destruction caused to his premises.
On the day in question, Mr. Patel decided to work late, and whilst working in laundrettes, he alleges that London rioters came, damaged the shop front and got inside. Being afraid, he retreated to the back of the premises, and subsequently the rioters ran amok within the laundrette and damaged 11 washing machines.
After such a terrifying ordeal, Allianz was keen to get the claim settled, but the company didn't just reach for its checkbook. Despite the huge volume of claims, each one was still investigated, and the insurer discovered some dirty laundry.
A number of concerns were raised. Mr. Patel had already previously submitted a claim for damage for washing machines in the laundrette only 6 months prior, which was never paid because Mr. Patel wasn't able at that time to produce documentation. This time round, when he was in the back of the premises and the rioters had left, he didn't actually call the police, and that concerned us.
And there were other mistakes in the claim.
There were some unusual aspects to the claim. The documentation that we received from Mr. Patel didn't add up. A lot of handwritten invoices, and when we tried to contact some of the companies, we couldn't do so.
The insurers decided to send out an investigator to the claimant to delve further.
While the investigator was there, he attempted to call one of the alleged companies that provided an invoice, and when he did so, the actual landline in Mr. Patel's laundrette rang out at the back of the premises. At the time, the investigator thought that highly unusual, so he did try that again, and he disconnected, rang again, and the landline rang out. At that point, Mr. Patel withdrew the claim.
Realising Mr. Patel's fraud, the insurer thought it was time to hang him out to dry.
We made a referral to IFED, the Insurance Fraud Enforcement Department. Subsequently, IFED raided Mr. Patel's home address and seized his computer. And on that computer, we found lots of evidence suggesting that Mr. Patel had actually created and falsified the invoices and estimates.
By trying to get one over on the insurers, it seemed the claimant had got himself in a spin.
I think the biggest mistake he'd made was that he'd got his location and timing all wrong. When we contacted the police, they were able to confirm to us that the rioters they weren't anywhere near his premises, and Mr. Patel even managed to get the timing slightly wrong as well.
The claim would have cost the insurance company £16,000, but the fraudster's antics didn't stop there.
As well as the claims submitted to Allianz, Mr. Patel had made claims to other insurers that they were near to settlement. That was for another £16,000. And when the police raided and took his computer, they found evidence that Mr. Patel was already in the process of making even more claims to more insurers.
Mr. Patel was found guilty of 7 counts of fraud by misrepresentation. He was given a 16-month suspended sentence.
Mr. Patel's attempt at putting in a claim as a result of the London riots was cynical, but it was quite amateurish as well. What we found particularly irritating was the time spent dealing with Mr. Patel's fraudulent claim could have been spent dealing with the genuine claims and getting businesses back on their feet.
Still to come, a dog breeder is barking up the wrong tree with her paperwork.
The claim form and the receipt from the breeder were both in the same handwriting.
And a couple of claimants try it on with a whiplash claim.
One of the guys has told the expert that it's been an effect on his dancing.
During the summer holiday peak season, up to 20 million Brits travel abroad. From Bognor to Budapest, many holidaymakers want to play it safe, covering lost luggage to cancelled flights, even the odd medical emergency. So many take out holiday insurance to give that extra bit of protection.
Rome is a very popular holiday destination, particularly for people wanting to go for long weekend breaks, to visit the Colosseum, for example.
It was while sampling a bit of the Dolce Vita in Rome that one claimant contracted a nasty complaint.
We received a medical claim from a customer who had allegedly sought treatment in Rome for a urinary tract infection. It's extremely unfortunate if you become unwell overseas, and ultimately that's what your travel insurance policy is there for, is to cover you for genuine medical costs.
As you'd expect, all the paperwork to support the claim came from Italy, in Italian, or so it would seem.
Due to the international nature of our business, we do employ multilingual staff, and on this occasion, one of our claims advisors was in fact Italian and realised that the medical report had not been written by an Italian.
Okay, now we can get that investigation completed.
The insurer didn't believe a word of it. It was time to call the experts in.
Our Special Investigations Unit became involved after the claims advisor referred it through to us. We then made numerous inquiries regarding the documentation that we had received.
This wasn't even a flying visit. It turned out the claimant hadn't even left their own doorstep.
As far as we're concerned, the customer didn't even travel to Rome because the airline had confirmed the booking invoice was false. And the medical establishment also confirmed the documentation provided for the medical situation was in fact false as well.
The claimer clearly needed to brush up on their language skills.
We strongly believe that the medical report was written utilising an online translation system, because it definitely wasn't written by an Italian. I don't speak Italian. I find English hard sometimes.
Luckily, the insurers had someone in their office who did.
Our Italian speaker was the main reason that the matter was referred through to the Special Investigations Unit, because she noted the irregularities in the medical report.
Claim rejected, it was arrivederci for the claimant. And it's no surprise that the Special Investigations team haven't heard from the claimant in either English or Italian.
This just shows really that what lengths claimants will go to make a fraudulent travel insurance claim by actually falsifying the booking invoice and falsifying the medical documentation as well.
Crash for cash is becoming a major policing issue. Currently, UK police forces are investigating 110 of these scams across the country. Reports claim that 1 in 7 personal injury claims are linked to deliberate crashes. These collisions are designed to milk insurance companies of up to £30,000 per crash. It's big money, and it's a serious danger to the public. Britain's police forces are determined to put the brakes on this type of crime, and Thames Valley Police is no exception.
Police, open the door now, last chance!
Detective Inspector Louise Roddy from Force CID has a team of 25 officers dealing with crimes from murder to blackmail and fraud.
We work closely with the Insurance Fraud Bureau and the Crown Prosecution Service to make sure that we've got a watertight case to present at court.
That's our man, secure him!
But it's not just costing the insurers thousands. These criminals are putting innocent lives at risk, and people are getting seriously hurt.
These accidents are taking place on busy roads, and the offenders can't possibly know what the end result of their crime will be. So it really isn't a victimless crime at all.
With Crash for Cash on the rise, Force CID aim to track down these gangs.
I do think the action that we've taken also sends out a really clear message that Thames Valley Police aren't prepared to accept these types of offences in our area.
And the police will use everything in their power to bring these criminals to justice.
We will seek to disrupt any offenders, and we will target them if they continue to commit offences.
It's 7 a.m. Thames Valley Police are getting ready to raid a suspected Crash for Cash ring. It's thought the group has been prevalent in the area for the last few years, forcing collisions and faking injuries. Today we'll see the culmination of months of hard work.
Good morning from my part. I'd just like to thank you all again for coming along today and helping us out with this operation.
DC Sandra Heather is a member of Force CID and one of the leading officers for today's raid.
The ultimate aim is to confirm, identify and arrest suspects in relation to the offences in order to secure and preserve evidence, recover property, including documented communication and computer equipment.
Police teams from CID, road policing and immigration have been working together, investigating a series of Crash for Cash crimes.
It's a police issue because of the scale of the offences. This is a series of crimes, and it does involve criminals that work together, and we believe that they're an organised group of criminals.
But equally, we want to send out a really clear message from Thames Valley Police that these offences will be dealt with robustly, that offenders will be arrested, and at any opportunity we'll prosecute them. Thank you.
DC Heather is in convoy with a team of officers, heading to raid the address of one of the suspected criminals involved with the Crash for Cash fraud. These officers are on the front line when it comes to the raid.
We'll see what we get on the premises. Hopefully they'll open the door, but we've got the equipment necessary if we need to force entry.
Method of entry officers are trained to knock the door down if the suspects don't cooperate.
This method of entry officers, first thing we're going to be looking to do really is kind of just step out of the way, because if we've got the equipment in hand, then really we need to secure that and just make sure that everyone else gains access and entry into the building.
Suited and booted to be on the front line. Once the officers have gained access, they then have to secure the property.
But once we've got inside, it's basically just covering all of the areas, making sure that empty rooms are classed as clear. Gather everybody into one secure area so that we've got the most effective way to search around the premises, and then begin the search.
Speed is essential, and the police can't waste a second.
Just pulling up this red car, mate. Right, go. Police officers, open up!
The suspected criminal could be destroying evidence or making a run for it, so they need to get in quickly.
Police, open the door!
There's someone at the window. Open up!
There's someone inside, but the officers are running out of time and patience.
Right, last chance, last chance. Police, open the door now, last chance! Right, let's do it. Go, 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 go! Please! Clear! That's our man, secure him, that's our man!
The suspected criminal is apprehended.
Just confirm his name and identity.
What's your name?
Yeah, that's the man.
Identified, it's time to put the handcuffs on.
You're under arrest on suspicion of fraud and false representation.
And we'll just hold him here till the arresting officers escort him out.
Arrested, the suspected fraudster is escorted to the patrol car.
Officers here have entered the premise and arrested a suspect from the address following the investigation in a crash for cash scams. The suspect and others are believed to have gone on to make personal injury claims, to which thousands of pounds have been paid out.
As he's taken to the station for questioning, the hard work in searching the house now begins. Later, the officers come across something suspicious.
That barrel can't get into it.
A suitcase that's kept under lock and key. They say that a man's best friend is his dog. But having a pet can be an expensive business, and veterinary bills can run into the thousands. For peace of mind, many have insurance to cover the costs. But one crafty claimer who thought she'd try and get one over on her insurer was barking up the wrong tree.
A claim came in for a very poorly Mastiff with pelvic limb ataxia. Pelvic limb ataxia is a condition whereby you might find one or more of the legs or limbs paralysed, or difficulty in moving. There might be incontinence. So a distressing condition for the Mastiff and a really distressing condition for the new owners. His name was Basil, and with the condition that it had, obviously we wanted to settle the claim as quickly as possible.
Even though the owner had only had the dog for a few weeks, the insurer didn't think there was anything unusual about the claim. That is, until further inspection.
One of the things that made us suspicious of the claim was when we investigated the claim form and the receipt from the breeder were both in the same handwriting.
The insurer contacted the claimer to see if they could explain.
When we probed the new owner and the breeder said the receipt had been written by her husband, and it was a bit of a fudge, which set alarm bells ringing.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Not convinced, the insurer approached the veterinary practices used by the breeder and the owner of the pet.
And the breeder's veterinary practice showed that Basil had actually been to see that vet 3-4 days before Basil had sold.
This showed that the dog had a pre-existing condition before it was sold.
So the breeder knew there was a problem with the puppy. The breeder had said, when we spoke to them, that the puppy had left completely healthily, but obviously it hadn't. It had seen the vet beforehand.
This wasn't the only blunder the claimants had made.
The owner claimed that she hadn't met the breeder until she went to collect the puppy. The breeder said that she was friends with the owner. On the receipt and the claim form, they had very similar handwriting. The owner said that her husband had written the claim form out, and so that there was it wasn't quite her handwriting, but it's identical to the breeder's. So it's very clear that there was something amiss with the claim.
The dog owner and the dog breeder's stories just didn't add up.
When challenged, the breeder became very evasive. She also met a lot of our questions with silence, which is indicative that there's a problem.
Caught out, the breeder held her paws up.
Eventually, she admitted that the condition was pre-existing, and when pushed further, she withdrew the claim and said, "I'll meet the cost of the veterinary fees myself."
The insurer knew it was a shaggy dog story.
This was an example of a breeder who got a puppy that she couldn't sell because it was poorly, and she'd asked a friend to pretend to buy the puppy, insure the puppy, and then claim for the veterinary fees that the breeder couldn't claim for because the puppy was already ill.
The breeder had made a real howler and is well and truly in the doghouse. Over 4.5 billion bus journeys are made every year in Britain, and almost 2/3 of travel on public transport is made on the Great British Bus. So it isn't very surprising that bus companies see their fair share of accidents.
On the 20th of November 2010, at around about 4:30 in the afternoon, a van has overtaken one of our buses on the driver's side, and the wing mirror of the van has just come into contact with the side of the bus. It's a minor glance, really, no real signs of any movement or need for the bus driver to swerve or brake in any way.
It was just before rush hour, and there were a few passengers on the bus.
On the upper deck, there are two chaps sat at the back of the bus. They're generally sitting there. One's on his phone, one's chatting away rather animatedly to his friend. Annoyingly, he's got his feet on the seat, but they both seem to be very relaxed at that stage.
Thankfully, whenever there's an accident, Lee has an army of spies to tell him what really happened, in the form of onboard cameras.
When you take into consideration that we're running both single-deck and double-decker buses in our services, you can expect there to be between 12 and 16 cameras on each of those buses, covering the inside and the outside of the bus.
From looking at the CCTV, the accident really appeared to be a very minor one.
This was certainly a very low-energy impact. There's certainly no jolt that you can see from the footage, and I wouldn't have expected anyone to be injured in this situation.
Hold on, let's have another look.
You do see some general swaying, but it's nothing out of the ordinary that you or I would experience in travelling on a bus on a daily basis.
With no one hurt and very little damage, there didn't seem to be anything to worry about.
The minor nature of the impact is actually borne out by the fact that there was only around about £132 worth of damage caused to the bus. The damage to the van was so negligible that the chap didn't even bother claiming for the damage.
However, some passengers saw it as an opportunity to take First Group for a ride.
We received 2 injury claims from each of the guys on the bus. They've both got soft tissue injuries.
The 2 passengers persisted with their claim, but were in for a bumpy ride.
All told, these claims would be worth in the region of around about £3,300 each, plus costs. And a medical expert has said they're going to take around about 6 to 12 months for both of those injuries to heal. One of the guys has told the expert that he has been unable to lift anything heavy for about 6 weeks. And in addition to that, it's been an effect on his dancing.
The claimants were obviously hoping to do a quick step to the bank.
Naturally, when the claims handler is presented with these claims, the first thing he's going to question once he's seen the CCTV footage is how on earth could these 2 guys have even been injured?
The camera never lies, and there was no footage to support their claim.
You would expect to see a sudden jerking movement to support the claims that they were making, probably the neck going forwards and backwards, but there's no movement at all in this situation. So it's difficult to see how they were actually injured.
Looking back though, there did seem to be some sudden movements.
There was a very fast movement when the chap jumped off his seat to look out the window and see what happened. The second quickest movement was probably both of them getting onto their mobile phones immediately. I'm not a betting man, but if I was, I would probably say that at the end of each of those phones was a no-win, no-fee solicitor. But that's just my opinion.
Not believing a word of it, First Group turned the claim down.
Were they to come back in the future, there are 2 things I would probably say is, first one, not to make a claim for excessive jolting causing you injury on a bus where the company you're claiming against is filming you. And secondly, keep your feet off the bus seats, please.
All right, go.
Thames Valley Police are in the middle of a raid on the home of a suspected criminal in a major crash for cash gang.
Police, open the door now, last chance!
With no response, the team had no option but to force entry.
You're under arrest on suspicion of fraud and false representation.
Arrested, the suspected criminal has been taken to the station. The police must now concentrate on finding evidence, and a systematic search begins.
We'll take a room each, 2 further rooms at the back. Are we happy with the loft? Have we been up there yet?
Nowhere escapes the officer's attention.
See if there's bank stuff, phones, computers.
The police must go through the house with a fine-toothed comb. Any bit of evidence could crack the case, so they can't afford to leave any potentially suspicious documents behind.
Are you guys all right up here?
Yeah, he's got car insurance here.
Yeah, literally. You know, I appreciate there's a lot of paperwork here, but at first glance, if it's anything remotely to do with a car insurance, other vehicle documents, rather than sort of reading through it as such as you are now, just put it in a bundle. Any banking details, any driving documents, including the laptop as well.
Paperwork is key to this investigation, but searching the contents of the house can be a long process.
We've got a load of receipts relating to pet receipts over a couple of years, an insurance policy document, and a few applications for private hire vehicles.
Digging out any potential evidence is just the tip of the iceberg.
The electronic equipment, so the iPads and the laptops, they will have to go off to our high-tech crime department, and it can take anything from 6 to 12 months for that to be processed. In terms of all these documentary material, depending on how many officers we have dedicated to it, it could take a number of days.
Everything is bagged and tagged to take back to the station later. The officers are a tenacious bunch, and suspicions are raised when they find a locked suitcase.
Right, well, you're going to need to get into this. I'll go downstairs and find
got the bulk croppers in the van.
Right.
Nothing will stop the police from searching for evidence.
Okay, which one's locked?
And their persistence usually pays off.
2 wedges of cash. So yes, at least a couple of thousand in each pile.
DC Heather is immediately informed of the cash find.
2 quantities of cash, which obviously will have a weight.
Yes, yes, please.
And a number of passports. Do you want those away or just get them checked?
I think get them checked initially.
The money is now being confiscated under the Proceeds of Crime Act, and the emphasis is now on the suspected fraudster to show it hasn't been acquired under criminal activity.
These were search warrants, just details why we could enter the premises, under what offences, and for the items and property that we'd be looking to search. When we finish here, the occupier is entitled to a copy, and we just have to detail the property that we're lawfully seizing.
Thames Valley Police now have to prove that these documents link the suspected gang to the crash for cash crimes.
The evidence that we've gathered and the early stage of our investigation is quite strong. It's good, credible evidence, and then we will progress it from there and see where it goes. I'm really, really pleased with today's result.
Insurance fraud in the UK has hit epidemic levels. It's costing us around £2 billion every year. That's almost £6 million a day. Deliberate crashes, bogus personal injuries, even phantom pets. The fraudsters are risking more and more to make a quick killing, and every year it's adding over £50 to your insurance bill. But insurers are fighting back, exposing around 14 fake claims every hour. Armed with covert surveillance systems,
that's the subject out the vehicle,
sophisticated data analysis techniques, and a number of highly skilled police units. They're catching the criminals red-handed.
Just don't lie to us.
All those con men, scammers, and cheats on the fiddle are now caught in the act and claimed and shamed. Coming up, a bus company unleashes their secret weapon to slam the brakes on one false claim.
You can expect there to be anything between 12 and 16 cameras, so remember to smile, you're on camera.
A holidaymaker's claim fails to take off,
Customers clearly seeing his travel insurance policy as an easy target to make money by deception.
And the IFED team hunt a suspected car insurance fraudster.
We've got a warrant from the court to enter and search the address for fraud.
Britain has been described as the whiplash capital of Europe. With almost 1,500 claims a day, it costs the industry nearly £2 billion a year. And fraudsters see this opportunity as a potential goldmine.
A typical whiplash claim pays around £2,500 in the UK.
Christian Worsfold is an expert in these types of injuries.
So whiplash injury describes the mechanism of the injury, so the movement of the head and neck, usually in a low-speed motor vehicle accident. The problem with whiplash injury is that all the symptoms are subjective in nature, so x-rays, scanning won't show any damage to the neck.
Claimants are acutely aware of this loophole.
I have patients regularly coming back to me who I'm treating, saying that they weren't in the examination very long, it wasn't very in-depth. So it's very easy for a person to pretend that they have the injury.
So it's not surprising that for public transport companies, fake whiplash claims can be a real pain in the neck. One man who has plenty of experience dealing with whiplash claims is Lee Ingram.
On the 28th of February 2013, one of our buses was making a left-hand turn. They've misjudged the turning circle and they've squashed up against some railings at the side of the road.
It must have caused more damage to the railings than the bus. Keep your eye on the bottom right of the picture.
We were rather surprised sometime later to receive a claim from one of the passengers on the bus, bearing in mind that this was a rather innocuous sort of squeezing accident rather than a full-on impact.
As always, the ever-present whiplash claim was put forward.
We do see these sorts of claims presented quite often. People will claim they received a whiplash injury from the most innocuous of incidents.
And this claimant didn't stop there.
We were a bit surprised later on, a further claim was submitted with the medical report for physio fees of £500 and a rather surprising care and assistance claim of over £2,000. These claims consist of 3 hours for general housework, 2 hours help with ironing, 6 hours help with laundry.
It's added up to 29 hours a week.
Care claims do tend to generally be inflated slightly, but 6 hours for laundry excluded ironing seems a little bit excessive. I think my nan could have done it quicker with a hand-crank washing machine and a mangle.
Luckily for Lee, he has a powerful weapon in the fight against such bogus claims.
When you take into consideration the single-deck and double-decker buses that we're regularly running in service, you can expect there to be anything between 12 and 16 cameras covering the inside and the outside of the bus. So yeah, it's pretty good coverage. When she's gone to see her medical expert, she's actually told him that she's been thrown violently forwards and backwards. So when we watch the CCTV, this is what we're expecting to see.
As the bus knocks into the railings, the claimant is sitting in the bottom right-hand corner of the picture.
She doesn't move a muscle, she sits stock still throughout the whole thing.
As you can see, she doesn't even move.
I'm not a medical expert, but I'm pretty sure you cannot get a whiplash injury from sitting still. First group's response after reviewing the footage was to reject the claim in its entirety on the grounds that there was no movement or inconvenience to anyone on this bus really, other than some general swaying. Certainly nothing to suggest that there would be a whiplash injury or any sort of injury to any of the passengers. You would have thought that this would be the end of this particular claim once we'd sent the CCTV footage off to the solicitors, but they weren't prepared to give up without a fight, and they did want their day in court, so this case went to trial. Trial cases are inherently risky. A moderate-sized claim like this could attract costs of up to around £20,000.
Travel companies like First Group self-insure, and so court fees like this are not taken lightly.
We were extremely shocked to get a bill of costs in on this particular claim of £40,000. So that was a little bit of a worry, but we thought we've got good evidence, so there was no way we weren't going to run this one to trial, and we did.
So she was off to court, possibly by bus.
At the trial, the judges actually heard evidence from, amongst others, the claimant's mother, the claimant and her sister. The claimant's sister has said that she cannot lift her arms above her head. Her mother has said that she spends a lot of time in bed because her medication has made her drowsy. The judge just didn't believe that those levels of assistance were required, so he found issue with that. The biggest issue is probably the CCTV. We showed the footage back and the judge sees her just sitting there with no movement at all. What else is he going to say? Yeah, we're pleased with the result, and in the end the judge dismissed the entire claim.
Still to come, a claim that really pushes the envelope.
Everybody in my investigation team is a sort of chess player. Getting to the bottom of the case and solving it is what they're there to do.
And one policyholder makes a dog's dinner of their claim.
Something very extraordinary happened for us. We had a tip-off that the breeder and the owner were colluding to defraud us.
Holidays are normally a time to relax. But for a select few, these dreams can turn into a nightmare. A foreign country is the last place you want to suffer an injury or lose your personal belongings. Your holiday can't get off to a flying start if you've been separated from your suitcase. Unfortunately, this seemed to be the case for one traveller to the African country Cameroon.
We received a baggage claim for €7,000 for a bag that was lost by the airline.
That's around £5,570. The claimant in this story was particularly unlucky, as the items lost included some expensive designer clothing.
A lot of our customers claim for designer clothes such as Armani, Prada, Louis Vuitton. They don't seem to have clothing from George, Asda, F&F at Tesco's or any of the high street brands.
There's nothing wrong with taking pride in your appearance and splashing out on the odd luxury. But I hope this customer kept his receipts, because these labels are pricey.
We became suspicious about the claim due to the level of designer clothing that was being claimed and the lack of proof of purchase for the items.
But surely people wouldn't deliberately exaggerate the cost of belongings that have gone walkabout.
It's extremely convenient, and they never have any receipts or proof of ownership for the designer gear.
The insurance company could smell a rat. Simon and his team took on the case.
They only provided 2 suspect-looking receipts to support €7,000 worth of clothing.
Maybe the shopkeeper could help clear up the confusion.
Well, we made some internet searches and the shops couldn't be located. We also attempted to contact the telephone number on one of the receipts, and it was a dead line.
That could have been the end of the story. With all the genuine claims keeping Simon's team busy, would they have the time and resources to unravel events that took place in a whole other country?
Fraudsters may assume that as the incident occurs overseas that we cannot investigate their claim, when in fact it is just as easy to investigate an overseas claim as it is in the UK.
To Sega, the concept of an international operation is not a foreign one. Their highly skilled sleuths around the globe regularly help Simon's team spy out the truth.
We proceeded to appoint one of our overseas network of investigators in Cameroon to do some on-the-ground inquiries. The on-the-ground investigator was unable to locate both of the shops in the areas shown on the receipts. Also went as far as checking the local phone directory, and neither shops could be located. They also checked with locals as well, and none of the local people in the area had ever heard of the shops. At that point, we're thinking this is a fraudulent claim. Shops do not exist.
But this international mystery became even murkier when the team looked into the customer's previous payouts.
But whilst looking at the baggage claim, our Special Investigations Unit also noted that the customer had made a medical claim, which looked suspicious. The costs were particularly high and disproportionate to the treatment he would have received.
Yes, $1,200 does seem a lot for the treatment of everyday symptoms such as fever, stomach pains, colic and a headache.
Our on-the-ground investigator spoke with the medical director at the clinic, which was a genuine clinic, and he found that the documentation we've been provided with for the medical claim didn't in fact originate from the clinic, and it was false.
They had him by the globes. It was clear he had grossly exaggerated his claim and was playing a brazen game of catch me if you can.
Well, the customer's clearly seeing his travel insurance policy as an easy target to make money by deception.
But he was about to have his wings clipped.
We firmly rejected the claim and wrote to the customer invoking the fraud condition. For the medical claim, which we had in fact paid, he was ordered to pay the money back and he agreed to repay us back in instalments.
But the repercussions didn't end there. Any future applications for insurance would be grounded.
After we formally rejected the claim, we also issued an industry-wide fraud alert to warn other insurers of the subject.
This meant he will be blacklisted. Another claimant had been sent packing. A message to anyone who thinks that travel insurance is their ticket to a new wardrobe. In January 2012, the City of London Police joined the fight against insurance fraud by forming an elite squad known as IFED, the Insurance Fraud Enforcement Department.
The message I'd give to people that are considering embarking on insurance fraud is just don't do it. My team, day by day, are getting more sophisticated in tracking down the people that want to try out this type of crime. So really, if you want to go into insurance fraud, I would say don't do it.
They've made over 550 arrests and have saved millions of pounds in fraudulent insurance claims, money which ultimately goes back in our pockets. From now on, fraudsters need to watch their backs.
My team work tirelessly 24/7, so we know exactly what types of scams you're going to embark on, and we will come after you.
Police, don't move, stay where you are!
DI Dominic Parkin and DC Jamie Kirk had an early start this morning. It's 6:45 and they're on their way to raid the house of a suspected crash for cash criminal.
As always, when we go out on these searches and warrants, we do as many checks and inquiries as we can. We never know all the risks that are involved, and so when we knock on that door, there is obviously an element of the unknown.
Today's raid is the result of months of hard work and preparation.
So this investigation's been going on for a number of months. The insurance industry, they spotted that the circumstances were suspicious, and they've referred the case to us to investigate further.
This type of fraud can be big money for insurance fraudsters. But IFED hope to intercept the alleged group before they receive any payouts.
This fraud commonly runs into the tens of thousands of pounds. No money's being paid out as yet by the insurance company, but the attempt to obtain the money is into the tens of thousands of pounds.
Today, Dom and the team are treading carefully. The element of surprise is an essential tool in the fight against insurance fraud. They got up at the crack of dawn for this wake-up call and hope their suspect is in.
You just go back there and just watch that upstairs window. Hello there, I'm a police officer. There's my warrant card. We've got a warrant from the court to enter and search the address for fraud. Okay, so he's gone out to work this morning already? Okay, if you just go in the lounge, I'll tell you what's happening.
Despite their early morning arrival, their suspect has already left for work.
Got a warrant here from the court which has authorised us to search the address for conspiracy to defraud and money laundering. And it's all to do with fake insurance claims on motor accidents. Okay, so that's why we're here. And I need you to ring and get to come back here, all right, because he needs to be spoken to. In terms of the man we were after, he wasn't at home. We missed him by 45 minutes. He'd left for work at 6 o'clock, and we turned up there at 7:15. That happens sometimes. Should have come earlier. We should have got up at 4 o'clock, not 5 o'clock.
The suspect is called. Even though he's not there, IFED can still go ahead with their search of the property.
There's so much police here, and they're talking to you about insurance fraud and stuff, and they want to search the property and everything. Oh, here. Did you want to speak to them quickly? My phone's going to die soon.
Okay. Hi, my name is Dominic Parkin. I'm a police officer from the City of London Police. We're here at your address with a search warrant issued by the Magistrates Court to search the address for items in connection with insurance fraud. So what time will be back? OK, and we'll give you a call later and we'll arrange a time for you to come to the station. OK, all right. Cheers now, bye. Yeah.
The suspect will be questioned later. But for now, Dom and his team must painstakingly search the house for any evidence relating to the alleged fraud. This means waking up everyone in the property.
So we've got to search the house, and I'll let you explain to the kids and wake them in a way that...
Oh, really? God. You have to go in all the rooms?
Potentially. But, you know, for us to search the house, it could take some time. So it's not like we're going to have a quick...
Oh, I see.
You know, a quick look around and we'll be gone before they wake up.
To save time, IFED always asks for help in locating any potential evidence.
If you could let us know where he does keep his stuff, it might be quicker.
Well, I've got a briefcase.
The woman is being cooperative and has said all paperwork is kept in a briefcase. The team start here, but will also need to check the other rooms. IFED leave no cupboard unopened, as evidence can be stored in the strangest of places.
Okay, we're not going to take this. We're not going to take these banking documents, but we're just going to make a note of the account numbers. So our financial investigator just has a look at the accounts to see what's if there's any link with the investigation.
Even old computers and laptops are seized, as they could contain vital evidence in the case. Everything is bagged up and labelled, ready to be taken away and examined by IFED's investigators. With the search complete, the items seized are taken back to the station for further analysis. But the most important thing now for IFED is that their suspect shows up at the station.
Great, so we'll be in contact with him today and we'll make an arrangement for him to come and see us so he can just answer the questions that we've got.
Yeah.
OK, so we're good.
The team have uncovered lots of useful documentation, but are still waiting to speak to their suspects.
So we've finished the search of our address. We've seized a number of items, those being some insurance documents and also some financial documents. We've also taken the computer tower from the address, so we'll be analysing that at a later date. In terms of the man we were after, he wasn't at home, but we've made contact with him by phone and he's agreed to come into the station later this afternoon for an interview. So all in all, a good day's work.
As the saying goes, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Thanks to a boom in online auction sites, you can easily buy anything from antiques to flat-screen TVs without leaving the house. But it can be nerve-wracking to hand over your hard-earned cash, trusting that a faceless seller will honour your bid and send you your item. Luckily, online sites and distributors like Royal Mail have insurance and refund policies to put bidders and sellers' minds at ease. Even if you don't pay for recorded delivery, Royal Mail will still refund you up to £20 for a lost package. But there are those who abuse this goodwill, just like our next claimant, who was such a prevalent fraudster that she ended up in court.
In this case, we'd had a customer who'd made several claims for items that she'd posted. These were all sorts of items, all sorts of small consumer durables, jewellery and things like that, mainly the kind of things that you can buy from auction sites.
One parcel going missing is annoying, but several losing their way is a real headache.
We were already suspicious about this particular customer because of the number of claims that she'd been making.
It was starting to add up to more than just bad luck.
We'd eventually concluded that she'd had so many items that she'd sent go missing, we thought this was questionable, and we were instructed to pay one final large claim by the Postal Review Panel, and at that point we thought we'd hear no more from this customer.
For Royal Mail, the sorting of parcels and packages never stops. Surely it will be easy for a fraudster to get lost in such a big system.
Well, not long after we'd ceased to hear from this customer, we realised that we were seeing a lot of claims coming through from other organisations and from other customers, all of whom had posted items to her and all of which were claimed not to have been received.
The claimant had switched from selling items to buying them. This time, she was sending complaints to various sellers that her purchases had not turned up. But Tony suspected she had received the packages and lied to get a refund.
At that point, we decided we would undertake an investigation. And this is a very particular type of investigation. It involves looking at somebody's personal mail, so it requires a very high level of authorization.
They needed to bring on board one of their trusted colleagues, someone with local knowledge, close to the target, and well positioned to do the legwork.
We asked the delivery office manager to record details of all the parcels and packets that were delivered to this lady. What we thought we might see, if our customer was in fact dishonest, was that she was denying receipt of parcels and packets that we knew we'd delivered to her.
Over a 4-month period, her scam was revealed.
We found that we had 33 items that were claimed to have been sent to this address that we knew had been delivered and that were allegedly not received.
Royal Mail have never lost 33 parcels to the same address.
There is no customer that I have ever come across who is unlucky enough to lose 33 items of mail like that. It's got to be a fraud or a scam of some sort. We just don't lose that level of mail.
For months, she was trying to claim from both her sellers and Royal Mail. Tony referred the case to the police.
Eventually, this lady was prosecuted by the Crown Prosecution Service on behalf of Royal Mail and this other company. She received a 3-month prison sentence, suspended for 18 months.
Tony and his team had stamped out this nonsense.
It's incredibly satisfying to get to the bottom of a case like this. Everybody in my investigation team is a sort of chess player. They're playing a game of strategy against the criminals. They enjoy doing it, and getting to the bottom of the case and solving it is what they're there to do.
For Brits, man's best friend has always been his trusty pet dog. And it doesn't get more British than the English Bulldog. Long associated with Winston Churchill, the Bulldog is a symbol of strength and honour. One person who knows all about Bulldogs and other furry friends is pet insurer Simon Wheeler from Argrea Pet Insurance.
I've been in the pet insurance industry for a long time, and there are always some strange and amusing and bizarre claims. There's the owner who has its car keys removed from the dog's tummy. There's a cat that has a yard of tinsel removed from its bottom.
What a catastrophe. Simon recently came across one shaggy dog story that really gave him pause for thought.
We received a claim for a missing Bulldog puppy. The puppy was called Lola, and her owners had insured her with us and were claiming £2,000 for the purchase price because she'd gone missing.
Although extremely pricey, they're not the most athletic breed. They'd rather sleep on your lap than play catch in the yard. In fact, their loyal nature means they tend to stay pretty close to home.
With a young puppy, it was unlikely that it would have strayed far, so we suspected it had been stolen.
It's not uncommon for expensive breeds to get snatched. So on the surface, this case looks straightforward. However, there was a twist in this tale.
Something very extraordinary happened for us. We had a tip-off, an anonymous tip-off, that the breeder and the owner were colluding to defraud us of the £2,000 purchase price.
But further still, Simon's informant believed the claimant was crying wolf.
The person who was suggesting that there was fraud occurring went on to say that the policyholder had no interest in dogs, didn't like dogs, wouldn't tolerate a dog in the house.
Simon Wheeler, ace insurer, pet detective, delved into the case.
Because of the tip-off, you never know whether there's some animosity, whether there's something else in the background and somebody is stirring up trouble, or whether actually there is some fraud occurring. We had to investigate it. So we approached the breeder and we approached the policyholder and just started the normal set of investigations.
Once Simon took on the case, the leads started raining like cats and dogs.
When we're investigating a claim of this type, we'll look at some of the supporting documentation, so the claim form that's submitted and the receipt that the new owner has been given for the puppy. In this instance, although the policyholder and the breeder live 200 miles apart, the handwriting for both was very, very similar. We also check that whether the breeder and the new owner knew each other. Both were adamant that they'd never met before the purchase of the dog.
Today's insurers regularly sniff around social media networks as a tool to catch people bragging about their furry friends or lack thereof.
When we investigated on Facebook was that they were father and daughter. So the breeder was the daughter, her and a partner had sold the puppy to the father, and very evidently they were part of the same family.
Simon got on the dog and bone to the policyholder and the breeder, whose days were about to get rough.
When we questioned the policyholder and the breeder, there are some inconsistencies between their stories. Certainly the policyholder was very, very edgy, very evasive, and we felt they were withholding information. We questioned the breeder as well, and again, they weren't relaxed. They were edgy, and their stories just didn't tie up.
The breeder had put their foot in it.
At this stage, we just suspected that the daughter had a puppy, and it had been sold, and then they thought they'd have another £2,000 from the insurance company by having a member of the family insure that puppy and then claim it had gone missing, probably sharing the proceeds.
The insurance company, now armed with enough evidence, refused the claim. But that wasn't the end for this dodgy claimant, who turned out to be someone who should have known better.
One of the breeders was a serving policeman. We referred the claim to IFED, who in turn referred it to the local police authority, and it became an internal police investigation.
The claimer was in the doghouse. He had bitten off more than he could chew.
The policeman was invited to a disciplinary hearing for gross misconduct. Before the hearing, the policeman resigned.
They had finally collared him, and Simon had saved the day.
Hey, but that's all in a day's work for a pet insurer.
Insurance fraud in the UK has hit epidemic levels. It's costing us around £2 billion every year. That's almost £6 million a day. Deliberate crashes, bogus personal injuries, even phantom pets. The fraudsters are risking more and more to make a quick killing, and every year it's adding over £50 to your insurance bill. But insurers are fighting back, exposing around 14 fake claims every hour, armed with covert surveillance systems.
That's the subject out the vehicle.
Sophisticated data analysis techniques, and a number of highly skilled police units. They're catching the criminals red-handed.
Just don't lie to us.
All those con men, scammers, and cheats on the fiddle are now caught in the act, and claimed and shamed. Coming up, diamonds are a girl's best friend, but one fraudster comes up with a real gem for his claim.
They found a picture of his fiancée wearing a ring that looked remarkably the same as the ring that he had reported stolen whilst in Brazil.
A policyholder makes a Blue Peter attempt at his insurance claim.
When the box appeared, it was obvious. My 9-year-old child could have done a better job.
And IFED are out in force across the country, tackling suspected travel insurance fraudsters.
We're looking for the products that you reported stolen. Are they here?
For sun, sea and a bit of romance, you can't beat jetting off to an exotic location. Up to 250,000 Brits visit South America each year, but levels of crime are high in this part of the world, and if you get robbed while on holiday, it can put a real dampener on your trip. In this particular case, newly engaged couple David Hammond and his new fiancée headed to the bright lights of Rio, and they obviously wanted to bring the diamond sparkler with them.
Mr. Hammond claimed that whilst he was in Rio de Janeiro, on the last day of his holiday, he'd packed up all of his belongings. He said that he was keeping the ring for safekeeping. He didn't want his fiancée wearing it out in public, so he was keeping it safe in a bag that he had.
Bags packed, But keeping the ring and a valuable gold bracelet close to his chest, David Hammond decided to do a bit of sightseeing.
He went to the hippie fair, and whilst he was there looking around at the stalls, he felt something brush up against him, and it was only later on, whilst back at the hotel, he went to unpack one of his bags and realised that the engagement ring was actually stolen, along with the gold bracelet.
Thankfully, Mr. Hammond knew exactly what to do in a situation like this.
I mean, thefts do happen there. He actually went to the Brazilian police to get a crime report.
Armed with his crime report number, on his return to the UK, Mr. Hammond reported the theft to his insurer.
Now, the diamond engagement ring was a bespoke diamond ring that had been made in the Hatton Garden area, along with a gold bracelet. Quite high value. I mean, the diamond ring was around 18,000 and the gold bracelet was 3,000. Because of the value of this claim, in excess of £20,000, it was thoroughly investigated and close attention is paid to the details that he would have given surrounding the circumstances of the theft.
The insurer has many tricks up their sleeve to investigate a claim.
During investigations, investigators had trawled through social media and they'd found a picture of his fiancée wearing a ring that looked remarkably the same as the ring that he had reported as stolen whilst in Brazil.
The picture had been taken a couple of months after the Rio trip. Confused, the insurer approached David Hammond. Mr. Hammond, of course, had a simple explanation.
He said that it was a replica and paid sort of a low value amount for it in order to keep his fiancée happy whilst the claim was going through.
The investigators just weren't convinced by David Hammond's story, so they referred the case to IFED, the Insurance Fraud Enforcement Department.
He couldn't back up what he was saying, didn't have a receipt for the replica, couldn't say where he bought the replica from, had no other information to offer, couldn't actually give us the replica. You know, all those things lead to just lies, really. He admitted that it was fraudulent from the outset.
David Hammond pleaded guilty at the Old Bailey, where he received a 6-month suspended sentence and 200 hours of community service.
This type of opportunistic fraud we see day in, day out here in this unit. It is unusual in the fact that it's quite unique, a bespoke diamond ring, and because of that value it's going to be investigated thoroughly. I think when it comes to motivations for fraud, it's always down to one thing, and that's money and greed. Oh, it's two things then, isn't it?
Coming up, a dog owner doubles her chances when her pet goes missing.
She miraculously mentioned a second Chihuahua, who also happened to be called Bella.
And a group of fraudsters claiming for several laptops seem to be suffering from a case of amnesia.
He was staying in a bed and breakfast that night. He could not remember the name of the establishment, the address, or even the part of London where it was situated.
Mobile phones. They're not just an accessory, they're a necessity. But today, they're now more than just a phone. For some people, they're an alarm clock, their camera, even their travel agent or bank. And for many, they'd be lost without them.
An investment in a smartphone is £400 or £500, plus in many cases people will sign up to 2 or 3 years contract with their mobile phone provider, and that's a big commitment.
Andy Morris from Assurance Solutions has heard it all. He's come across many claimers who found themselves in deep water.
We had a customer who rang up who claimed that they'd lost a high-end smartphone. They'd said they were on a boat on a lake.
We went out on my boat and we were going around the bay. My mum keeps having something going on her phone. So I said, well, chuck my SIM card in there, see if it solves it. And without realising or even thinking about it, I put my phone on the side of the boat. And then the boat went past, my boat rocked and the phone just slid straight off the side.
But just before the phone fell into the lake, the claimant had removed the SIM card from the device before it fell in to swim with the fishes.
But accidents do happen.
It's quite believable because a lot of our customers lose their phones or damage their phones, dropping them in the toilet or dropping them in a river or a lake or when they're in a boat.
Following the claim, the insurers went about their usual checks.
We then used our data analytics and looked at the call patterns and identified that the SIM card and that phone had been used after the claim had been logged to make telephone calls.
Or, to put it a bit more simply,
the phone was actually being used from the bottom of the lake.
By now, the insurer just wasn't convinced. Several calls later, they contacted the claimant once more to finally get to the bottom of their story.
I just got a couple of questions that I just need to ask. So, you've spoken to one of my colleagues yesterday, and she just questioned in regards to the phone being lost, and you stated that you didn't actually see the handset drop into the water. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so you're making the assumption that somebody could have picked the phone off?
Well, we don't. I'm not making assumptions to anything. All I know is we took the SIM card out, put the phone on the side of the boat. We fiddling around my mother's phone. We turned back round and the phone was gone. It is possible that someone could have grabbed it or not. We don't know.
The insurer wasn't swayed and denied their claim. However, the stories and lengths people go to make an insurance claim for a lost phone don't end there.
We had a customer who was claiming for a high-end Samsung smartphone. This person had been dropping their friend at the airport when they actually lost their phone. They telephoned us to report a claim.
It wasn't long before their suspicions were raised.
On logging the claim, we'd asked the customer for proof of ownership, that actually they had the phone or a unique identification number that we call in the industry IMEI. The customer was unable to provide any of those bits of information.
The claimer seemed a little confused by the insurer's request.
The claimant initially challenged us and said they needed further clarification. So our agent, because of their training, offered a variety of ways for the customer to prove that they did own the phone.
The insurer asked if the claimant could provide any proof of purchase.
The customer said, absolutely, I will go and get you proof of purchase and I'll send something. We agreed to accept the original box that the phone came in that the customer offered.
But the insurer couldn't believe what landed on their desk.
When the box actually appeared, it was obvious. My 9-year-old child could have done a better job, but ultimately the customer had doctored and created the box.
And in true Blue Peter style, here's one we made earlier.
The serial numbers were wrong, the pictures were wrong, the barcodes were wrong. He quite clearly had had a good day on the clip art. In that example, despite the customer thinking so far out of the box he created one, the claim was declined because it was incorrect evidence.
In January 2012, the City of London Police joined the fight against insurance fraud by forming an elite squad known as IFED, the Insurance Fraud Enforcement Department.
IFED combats all sorts of insurance fraud across the board, ranging from opportunistic jewellery thefts to crash for cash.
They've made over 550 arrests and have saved millions of pounds in fraudulent insurance claims, money which ultimately goes back in our pockets. From now on, fraudsters need to watch their backs.
So if you're thinking about it, I suggest think again. There's every chance you'll get an IFED detective come knocking on your front door.
Today, IFED are cracking down on suspected travel insurance fraud. People who have gone on holiday and falsely claimed for theft of luxury items such as clothes, jewellery and electronic goods. In total, 70 officers are working with the City of London Police up and down the country, investigating a series of claims ranging from £500 to £14,000. It's early in the morning. DC Andy Jackson and DC Kerry Huffington are heading towards the address of a suspected fraudster to carry out a raid for potential evidence.
This job today is one of about 21 jobs that's going to be actioned today.
The alleged fraudster has made a claim on her travel insurance for several luxury designer items.
What we'd like to do today is get to the address. We'd like to locate the female who's claimed on this policy. We're looking at arresting her and then conducting a premises search just to look for the items which she has reported lost or stolen. In front we've got a couple of officers assisting us. The value of the claim goes into probably about £2,000. fraud is fraud. You know, whatever the figure is, it's irrelevant really. But let's go and see what happens when we knock on the door.
The officers arrive in the early hours of the morning, hoping to catch the suspect by surprise.
Good morning. Sorry, my name's DC Jackson from City Police. Is it right if we come in and I can explain what it is I'm doing here?
It may seem like a small case, but the officers treat all suspected fraud the same.
We're here because we suspect that you've made a fraudulent claim. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to be arresting you now on suspicion of fraud. Okay, we're going to take you down to a local police station and we're going to be interviewing you on this matter. But while we're here, we're going to search the premises because we're looking for the products that you reported stolen. We'll search every room, okay? But if you want to give us those items now, are they here?
The woman has denied that the goods are at the property, so IFED now have to carry out a search of the house. She's arrested by the local police and led away.
The local officers will be taking her back shortly to the station, where she will be interviewed on this matter later. She'll be given her opportunity to account for the validity of her claim regarding these items. This is a multi-occupancy house. She has one room in this house. We'll be searching that room to see if we can locate any of the items that we're after.
A thorough search of the suspect's room begins. The officers can't afford to miss anything in their pursuit of possible evidence and leave nothing unturned. They find a number of electrical goods that could prove to be important in the investigation.
We've seen some laptops. We'll have a look to see if we can find any of the other articles.
The officers delve a little further and come up with an interesting find.
Yeah, under the bed, just found a box containing a set of very similar in name to the item that we're looking for as one of the items reported in this claim.
DC Jackson and his team have finished their search and hope they've found the potential evidence they were looking for.
We've seized a number of items very similar to what it is that she's claimed for in her policy. Also in the bedroom was a box which had the same serial number, matching that of the item that she's attempted to claim for. We're going to make our way now to custody and we'll be interviewing her very shortly. It's a small part of a big day. Travel insurance fraud, yeah, it's a big thing. It's something that needs to be looked at, and hopefully today, by what we've done here today and up and down the country, this might deter people from making fraudulent claims.
Later, IFED continue to target travel insurance fraud.
The items we're looking for are a telephone. You still have that?
Britain is a nation of animal lovers. With 17 million cat and dog owners in the UK, 15% of these owners have pet insurance. If one goes astray, it can be an emotional time for the owner. So when insurers get claims for lost pets, they have to tread carefully.
Bella, the Chihuahua, was a case of a young dog in the back garden with a policyholder inside that miraculously went missing.
This case initially caught the insurer's attention due to the amount of the claim.
When the claim came in, we saw that the purchase price was much higher than you'd expect for a Chihuahua. Bella, the Chihuahua, was insured for £1,000. The average purchase price for a pedigree dog in this day and age is around about £400. So for your Labradors, your Retrievers, Chihuahuas, yes, a little bit more, certainly not £1,000.
Despite the amount, on the face of it, it did seem like the claim was legit.
This was a textbook claim. The dog warden had been informed, the veterinary practices had been informed, the police had actually attended, but could find no evidence of theft, so they hadn't filed a report.
Things seemed to be going swimmingly, until the insurer asked for one final detail.
Bella, we knew she existed. You know, the veterinary records were there. The last thing that we wanted to check was back with the breeder. And so we asked the policyholder for the breeder's details, and the details they gave us, we couldn't find the breeder. The phone wasn't answered, and we struggled to track the breeder down.
The investigators were like a dog with a bone, and their perseverance paid off.
When we did track the breeder down, and we found her on social media, she actually wasn't the breeder of the puppy at all. She was a person that the policyholder had sold the puppy to. So she still owned the puppy. And she said that the person we had as a policyholder had actually bred the puppy.
Armed with this insight, the insurer approached the policyholder.
Upon questioning, she admitted that Bella the Chihuahua had been sold to her friends, and she then miraculously mentioned a second Chihuahua, who also happened to be called Bella, was the one that had gone missing. So quite bizarre.
But the policyholder's stories didn't stop there.
With Bella number 2, there were no veterinary records. There was no police report of the theft or the loss. There was no reporting to the local veterinary practices, the local dog warden, or the local animal rescue centres. We couldn't determine that Bella number 2 had actually ever existed.
The insurer put 2 and 2 together.
So at that point, we immediately suspected that the breeder, who was our policyholder, had the puppy, had Bella, sold her to her friend, and then she'd gone out and insured Bella herself, even though she didn't own her anymore, and then put in a fictitious claim for the loss and purchase price of Bella.
The insurer had had enough of the claimant and thought it was time to call her bluff.
We suggested we'd send loss adjusters round to see them, and miraculously, same day, the policyholder withdrew the claim.
The policyholder had, quite simply, been caught out.
With this type of case, once you spot the initial signs, the cases tend to unfold before you. People aren't that clever at covering their tracks. Social media is a godsend for the insurer who uses it properly.
The ascent of the laptop has enabled us to work on the move. Around 2/3 of us use a laptop, and the latest models can cost anything up to £3,000. But for some, they see this as a chance to use their contents insurance as a nice little earner. One group of crafty fraudsters got a little greedy when they submitted 3 claims over a 3-month period.
All 3 were claiming for laptops costing several £1,000s and presented to us documentation in the form of purchase invoices, eBay documentation, bank statements.
But the documents supporting their claim set off alarm bells.
The fraudsters went to considerable lengths to falsify documents using the correct letterheads, using the correct fonts and terminology. However, when our investigators in the office and in the field examined these documents in more detail, we found significant discrepancies.
If you look closer, you can see the figures don't quite add up. These numpties clearly failed their maths test. They've forgotten to add on the pence. Right, let's do some basic maths. 5 plus 3 is 8. Oops, they've got that wrong. 4 plus 2 is 6. And not 0. Wrong again. But to be fair to them, they've got the total of the pounds right. Not convinced, the insurer interviewed all 3 claimants.
We found numerous discrepancies in their versions of events. One of the claimants claimed that he purchased a rail ticket on the day for a return to London from Coventry for £41. Our inquiries showed that actually a cash ticket bought on the day would cost £138.
One claimant seemed to suffer a severe case of memory loss about the particular details of his visit to his sister.
He could not even remember where she lived, her address, or even the part of London where she resided. He went on to state that he was staying in a bed and breakfast that night. Again, he could not remember the name of the establishment, the address, or even the part of London where it was situated.
The insurer wasn't having any of it and thought it was time for their investigator to pay one of these fraudsters a visit.
When our claims inspector arrived at the address, he found the property to be unfurnished. Mr. Decory claimed he was still living there, but there was not even a chair for our inspector to sit on, and he had to take a statement while sat on the floor.
But then came the real gaffe made by the scammers.
The same address was used by one of the other claimants, purporting to be his mother's address, and claimed she had lived there since 1999. Unbeknown to him, our claims inspector had been at the same address 1 week before, where he'd had to sit on the floor.
For the investigator, this was more than just a coincidence, but a serious slip-up by the fraudsters.
1 or 2 discrepancies in a case would be understandable. However, when we encountered more than a dozen discrepancies and inconsistencies, along with significantly falsified documentation, It led us to only one conclusion, and that was that this was a serious attempt to defraud the insurance company.
However, one of the swindlers seemed to be getting cold feet and wanted to withdraw his claim.
Shortly afterwards, we received a text message from Mr. Sejal saying miraculously he had found his laptop and now wished to withdraw his claim. However, he had already submitted false documentation, false bank statements and a false invoice from Apple.
Regardless, Direct Line passed all 3 claims on to the police. In November 2013, all 3 were given 12-month community sentences in order to carry out 150 hours of unpaid work.
Claims of this nature are becoming more prevalent, and what we find is that as technology changes and new products and specifications are introduced, people use an opportunity of a false insurance claim to upgrade their equipment.
Today, IFED are knocking on the doors of multiple addresses, targeting suspected travel insurance fraud. This is part of IFED's clampdown, with zero tolerance of fraud, no matter what the claim.
We see some laptops. We'll have a look to see if we can find any of the other articles.
It's believed that over 7,000 travel insurance claims a year are fraudulent. Even though the individual claims may be small, it's the sheer quantity that's causing the travel insurance industry a real headache, to the tune of £7.5 million a year. IFED are targeting all suspected fraudulent claims from £500 upwards. One travel insurer is Seeger, who has come across cases where people have taken it to the extremes.
We always see customers claiming for designer clothing such as Prada, Louis Vuitton or Armani. They don't seem to have clothing from high street brands.
But insurers have seen a dramatic increase in the number of medical claims on travel insurance.
Customers will travel on holiday and then claim for cosmetic surgery procedures and try to disguise those as medical emergencies. We've recently had a case where a gentleman suggested he was involved in a road traffic accident, but the only injuries that he sustained was to his nose. When we completed the on-the-ground inquiries at the clinic, it then transpired that the customer had in fact had a pre-planned nose job.
And don't assume that because it happened abroad, that it's out of sight, out of mind for the insurer.
Fraudsters may assume that as the incident occurs overseas that we cannot investigate their claim, when in fact it is just as easy to investigate an overseas claim as it is in the UK.
As part of a national crackdown on travel insurance fraud, IFED are taking this battle to the doorstep of alleged travel insurance fraudsters. While his colleagues are down south, DS Marcus Allen and financial investigators Simon Stiles have headed north to investigate another suspected case.
She'd been on holiday, and at some stage whilst on holiday, she stated that her purse and handbag was stolen, and subsequently she reported it to the police and made a claim in relation to the contents of the purse and handbag. These included a camera, some cash, some euros, credit cards and a mobile phone.
Good morning. My name's Marcus Allen. I'm from the City of London Police. We've had a matter reported to us which regards you. Can we come in and talk to you, please? Who else is in the house? Oh, okay. All right, fine. We work for the Insurance Fraud Enforcement Department. We've had an allegation made against you by an insurance company regarding a claim for when you went on holiday. So we're here today to arrest you for that on suspicion of fraud by false representation. Is that clear?
Yeah.
You okay? Right, good.
Just shocked.
Yeah, well, like I say, it's been reported to us, we're going to investigate that, but the first stage is to speak to you. The items we're looking for are a telephone. Do you still have that?
Nope.
Okay, where is that?
That was actually stolen.
The woman claims she had some items stolen just days before going on holiday. The suspect goes and gets dressed in order to help DS Allen with his inquiries.
I'm just going to have a quick look in there, and also in your purse, but you can watch me do it.
DS Allen starts his search for any possible proof of a fraud.
Is this one of the cards you reported stolen? That's the replacement card. Where did you say the other stuff is?
The team have to be sure they don't miss any evidence, from paperwork to the items themselves.
I just need to confirm that this camera
Was it not the one that you reported stolen?
The police have to carry out a systematic search of the house, searching every room.
Right, just so you know what we're going to do now, we're going to go to the police station, you'll be checked in with the custody officer, and then you'll be dealt with today.
She's been very cooperative, and now that she's been arrested for fraud by false representation, they're going to take her to a local police station to be interviewed. We came here with the intention to seek her and arrest her, so a good day for IFED.
The woman later admitted the offence and was given a police caution. The suspect arrested earlier in the programme is still under police investigation. In total, 13 people were arrested during IFED's raids, targeting suspected fake travel insurance claims.